Good evening, comrades! Welcome to the Movie Changeup podcast, where each week two people go head-to-head pitching movie reboots. I'm Joe Fricke, your host, co-creator of the podcast, along with my other three co-creators here today. We've talked over since the last episode and determined that with as amount of work and effort as all four of us have put in, that we all kind of deserve co-creator credit at this point, so that's where we're at. And if you didn't understand my opening, apparently our TikTok is fairly large in Russia, so we have a pretty good Russian audience. Don't know where that came from. Maybe Johnny has connections. Who knows? But yeah, the rules of our podcast. Basically, each week, two people go head-to-head pitching movie reboots. 7 movies, 7 rules. They have to go and match what rule they think goes with which movie best and pitch their best version of it. Today's theme, we're doing movies that won the Golden Globe for Best Motion Picture Drama. Let's start off with introducing my co-judge today, Tristan Mayer. How you feeling? Who you think's gonna win? What's gonna happen today?
I'm feeling pretty good. You had a nice political way of saying, "Oh, we're all co-founders." What he really meant was, I won that title last week, and now I'm co-founder. But he didn't want to make anybody else feel bad, so now we're just all co-founders. All right. And I forgot to turn my TV off behind me because I was just watching Steel for my DC Daily TikTok videos. And normally people vote on the movies I watch, but tonight I wanted to make this match a little exciting, so I decided to put what I watch next on the stakes of this match. So Johnny, if you win, I'll be watching a movie I know you love deeply in your heart, Watchmen: The Ultimate Cut.
Okay.
And if Bobby wins, we're watching one of the greatest DC movies of all time, The Dark Knight. So Johnny, if you win, that just proves that
Watchmen.
Yeah, you're basically proving Watchmen is better than Dark Knight. So, good luck, Johnny. Good luck, Bobby. I want to say I have no game in this, but I want to watch Johnny lose, so hopefully Bobby wins.
Yeah, that's not biased, Judge.
Not at all. I'll take it though.
All right. Next up, someone who I believe went 6-1 the last, only won one of the 7 matches the last time they faced. Bobby, how you feeling? What are you gonna do to not let that happen this time? How are you gonna finally take down your brother?
I think I got some good pitches. He's always a good arguer, so I got to try to combat that somehow and take down, and throw out the flaws in his so that he doesn't just talk the whole time. I think that's my goal.
All right, and Johnny, what are you gonna do to maintain your dominance? You've only ever lost one match in this league.
And you know what? That one match, Joe, the judge of that episode was Bobby. It was the first episode we ever did. And I haven't lost since, but I will never forgive Bobby for his ignorance. Bobby, you ignorant slut. I will destroy you, just like I have every time we faced. I honestly don't think it will be a 6-1 victory for me this time because I think Bobby will come better prepared. I think it's going to be a 7-0. It's going to be a sweep. And then I will tell Bobby to suck it. While my parents are watching. Hi, Mom and Dad.
Yeah. And I also appreciate the Dan Aykroyd quote, so that's fine.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to it. Yeah, like I said, 7 movies, 7 rules. Today's 7 movies are Around the World in 80 Days, Bohemian Rhapsody, Brokeback Mountain, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Ordinary People, Sunset Boulevard, and 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. And Tristan, you got the 7 rules there.
I'm pulling them up right now. They're buried somewhere in my list of DC notes on this account. Someone wants to cover for me. That would be awesome.
I got you. Our first rule is use the nominees of the 78th Golden Globes, which is basically, you had to pick someone who was nominated this year in the directing category to direct your movie, and then pick 4 actors who were nominated this year to star in your movie. They also have to turn one of their movies into a miniseries. They have to make one of their movies a mockumentary. They have to set one of their movies in the world of Mickey Mouse. They have to resurrect an actor's career for one movie. One movie must be cast with actors 60 years or older. And then one of their movies must include a character from a Steven Spielberg movie. And I believe Johnny was it Johnny won the competition beforehand to see who goes first. So Johnny, what movie are we doing and who's going first?
You know what? We're going to go with one. I didn't necessarily think this is where I wanted to go first, but looking through my options, I think this is a good little um, kind of a warm-up fight. We're going to go with Around the World in 80 Days, and I'm going to have Bobby start, I think. Yeah.
All right, so Around the World in 80 Days is actually Tristan's pick. So if you've never seen this show before or haven't at least watched it this season, I picked 3 movies for them to do. Tristan picked 3 movies to do. And then we kind of collaborated on one movie. And so whoever picked the movie for them to do will be judging that round. And like I said, this is Tristan's pick. So Tristan will be judging Around the World in 80 Days. But Around the World in 80 Days came out in 1956. Got a Rotten Tomato score of 69%. The plot of the movie is Victorian era Englishman Phileas Fogg proclaims before his fellow members of a London gentlemen's club that he can circumnavigate the globe in a mere 80 days, further boasting that he will bet the princely sum of £20,000 on the success of his endeavor. With a stalwart manservant Passepartout alongside, he goes forth on his adventure, pursued by a dogged police inspector who suspects Fogg of chicanery. Whatever the fuck chicanery means.
He stole from a bank. That's what he. Yeah. It's not charcuterie.
Charcuterie.
He did it with meats and cheeses and crackers, baby.
That is a reference to our dad. All right, let's go. So I'm going first for this one.
Yeah.
Well, this is where I think I was gonna go because I'm curious if we matched up on the rule. I think it kind of fits. And I'll get kind of right to it, but because I can't really go through my cast, I am making this in the world of Mickey Mouse. So the cast members are just going to be the voice actors that, voice these characters currently or that would do it for Disney. For the director, I chose Steve Martino, who did the Peanuts movie. That's a really sweet, good family movie with an old property that I think he can do well again with Mickey Mouse. And I'll get to which characters are involved as I go through my pitch. So Goofy is an inventor who keeps coming up with failed ideas. Pete, his neighbor, is tired of dealing with all his failed inventions, but Goofy finally thinks he has found something that will work, a hot air balloon capable of traveling the world. Pete calls Goofy a failure in front of his son in a confrontation, and Max blurts out, "Oh yeah, well my dad invented something that can go around the world in 80 days. Pete says, "I'll tell you what, if you can make it around the world in 80 days, I'll give you enough money to build an actual laboratory, but if you don't, you have to give up being inventor for good and stop pestering me." Max says, "He'll take the bet, won't you, Dad?" Goofy stutters but wants to look cool in front of his son and shakes Pete's hand. The problem is Goofy needs someone to help operate the balloon and heads downtown to find someone that's willing to go because he doesn't want to put his son in danger. After many different Mickey Mouse characters decline, Donald, who seems to have just gone through a breakup, agrees to go to get back at her and kind of ignore that whole situation, not really knowing what he's getting himself into. We're currently playing through the first Kingdom Hearts game again, and the dynamic between Goofy and Donald, I think, is really good in that game, so I think I wanted to use that for a movie because they're kind of fun characters to play off each other. And then, so throughout the movie, Darkwing Duck is going to be trying to chase him down because he thinks that Goofy robbed Scrooge McDuck's vault and was using the balloon to get away. That kind of revolves itself at the end that it turns out to be Mortimer Mouse, but throughout the whole movie, you have Darkwing Duck chasing him, and that's kind of the cop character. Along their adventures, they get into many hijinks with cameos from other characters, including Chip and Dale, who are trying to invent a plane, like the Wright brothers, Clarabelle Cow, Huey, Dewey, and Louie, who are on vacation causing trouble on an island, Taurus Bulba, who's a villain in the Darkwing Duck series, who's like a mob boss in this. Goofy accidentally picks up a suitcase with money in it, causing him to chase him down with a lot of his henchmen. And then they meet an heiress named Daisy, who Donald instantly falls in love with. When they return, finally making it just in time for the 80 days, King Mickey and Queen Minnie have heard of their trip and offer Goofy to be their royal scientist. That's kind of my movie. He doesn't have to really. He tells Pete that he doesn't need his money. Kind of the Goofy kind of thing to do. Doesn't take him up on the bet, but gets put to work with royalty.
All right, Johnny, what do you got?
All right, yeah, no, we did not use the same rule on this, Bobby.
Okay.
Because fuck that. So what I'm doing is I'm casting all actors 60 or older, and so that is my rule choice, and here is why. We're making this Monty Python's Around the World in 80 Days. It will be directed by Terry Gilliam. Obviously the three main leads of Monty Python will be in it as John Cleese, Eric Idle, and Terry Gilliam. Playing themselves, but all sorts of fun little characters. And I just kind of I didn't write out a full story like Bobby, just kind of a setup for jokes and opportunities and actors that will be in it. So these are my other side characters that will make appearances in the movie. I will have Timothy Dalton, Pierce Brosnan, Michael Caine, Stanley Tucci, Kenneth Branagh, Hugh Grant, Emma Thompson, Judi Dench, and Carol Cleveland, who was also in other Monty Python movies. They're all over 60, and they're all capable of being pretty funny in these little Monty Python sketches, I think. So here's my pitch. It's the return of Monty Python and the final kind of goodbye to them, because we've lost a few members over the years. So John Cleese and Eric Idle play two over-the-top inventors who claim to be able to travel around the world in 80 days in a hot air balloon. While traveling, they discover something very strange. Every time they stop down in a city, it is in a different era of history. They travel from city to city, running into famous people, including Princess Diana, played by Emma Thompson, Napoleon, played by Danny DeVito.
I like Napoleon Dynamite.
Mikhail Gorbachev, played by Michael Caine. Shout out to my Russian comrades. William Shakespeare, played by Kenneth Branagh. Bram Stoker, played by Pierce Brosnan, with Dracula, played by Timothy Dalton. So we're going to kind of just set up fun Monty Python skits. Along that, I think this gives them an opportunity to kind of have a nice farewell tour and have a lot of different actors and actresses in there working with them who we haven't really seen do that before, but are all influenced by them. And I'd like the opportunity for just people to play fun characters. And kind of like if you've seen the Wet Hot American Summer TV show, where they are all like high school, college age kids, but they're all older. That's what my movie is going to be. So Emma Thompson, who is in her 60s, is going to be Princess Diana, but they're going to treat her like she's, young Princess Diana, things like that. And then you'll have sketches like, Timothy Dalton's Dracula trying to bite him and then being like, "Are you trying to bite me?" Like things like that. Classic Monty Python, just humor that I love. I know at least one of our judges is not a big fan of Monty Python, but I think between Life of Brian, Meaning of Life, and Holy Grail, those are three of the greatest comedies ever made. And we never really got we just kind of had everything go on and everyone aged and we lost a few of the members and we haven't had like a goodbye to the cast. And everyone's still acting, like Terry Gilliam's still doing movies and John Cleese is still in movies. So that's my pitch. I'm just making one last Monty Python movie full of actors that I love. So there we go.
All right. Tristan, you're in charge of this round, so.
Yeah, I like both of the pitches. I'm glad you guys both used two different rules. I definitely thought you guys would both use the Mickey Mouse rule this time, so Bobby used it, which is interesting. And my first question is for Bobby. Since you're doing an animated movie, you're doing a Mickey Mouse movie, I want to get a little bit from you about the animation style. Is it going to be in the same style as the Peanuts, that kind of 3D computer animation, or are you going to try and do a throwback to like almost Frozen style, where it's almost hand drawn? It's gonna be more like a Disney style animation.
Well, Frozen's still like the 3D animation. So what I was picturing is more 2D. I don't want to take these, I don't really want to see Goofy in like a Pixar-y kind of style. So I'm sticking with the an elevated version because they're really good at using the 2D animation when they do it, kind of like Princess and the Frog. Which looked really good. So I'm sticking with the 2D style. I thought that would work better for the characters.
All right. And Johnny, you changed up the premise a lot. I know Monty Python is kind of like a totally its own thing. So I want to get a little bit from you why you changed up the premise from the original. Just go around the world in 8 days, here's your mission, and that's it.
I think you'd have some of the same story elements, but it basically, like the Holy Grail takes this story of King Arthur and then just uses it to get from place to place. That's what I'm doing with mine. The only thing you really need to bring back from Around the World in 80 Days is the hot air balloon, because that's what's most iconic. I don't think you really need a bunch else. You can have some, things with fun little inventions, but they remade this movie in the early 2000s with Jackie Chan, and that movie was unwatchable, and they tried to do something very similar to the original, but make it more modern, and I don't really want to do that. The original one is fine. It just, it's nothing that I feel like you really need to stick to anything other than here's the famous hot air balloon, and they're traveling around the world and meeting fun characters, because that's the whole idea of what's fun in the original, all the people they meet along the way. So I'm kind of just expanding on that and lessening the plot, but expanding on the fun aspects of it.
I like that. All right, I'm excited to hear you guys argue. I want to hear some questions from Joe, though, if he has any.
Yeah, I don't really have any questions. That's why I kind of threw it to you. I basically, I guess I do have a question for Johnny, and that's like, how do you explain how they jump time periods, or do you just kind of be like, that's you don't?
They just land in France, and it's old France. They land in America, and it's modern day America. They land in different times and things like that. It's you don't really explain anything in the Monty Python style of humor. It's just kind of random.
Yeah. All right. I'm okay with that. Humor. Yeah, that's all I have. Do you just want to put 5 minutes on the clock and let them battle it out then?
Yeah, it works for me. I'm excited to hear you guys fight.
All right. Yeah, it's 16:46 now. So yeah, 21:46. You can. I'll stop it. So whoever wants to start.
Yeah, I'll start.
Yeah, go for it.
My main issue with Bobby's is, I know it's a kids movie, but that sounds unwatchable because all the characters, like Donald Duck, who can listen to the most annoying voice ever created for that amount of time? Like Donald Duck in anything past like the 40s and 50s has just been a side character in all the Mickey Mouse stuff. So I get Goofy might be your main lead, and he's had a Goofy movie, which kids liked, I'm sure, but I can't listen to Donald Duck be the like secondary character the whole movie. It would make me want to rip my fucking ears out. Like, that sounds miserable. There's a reason that he's not a lead character in anything. Even in Kingdom Hearts, anytime he speaks, I'm like, skip forward. I do not want to hear him. So I think that's a problem. And just like, if he pops up.
So the whole thing, that's why I think it's a fun dynamic. It's always when you have like a buddy cop movie or anything like that, you sometimes have someone who can get on the other guy's nerves, and Donald is a good character that get angry at Goofy's dumb decisions, and his voice kind of lends to his reactions and that. But if you've heard how Donald sounds in any like modern Disney, like I looked up to see like kind of what they did with his voice, and they kind of toned him down just a little bit so that it's not as grating, but it still sounds like Donald. And it's his personality that I think the dynamic that would go really well with Goofy, because you can picture him being forced to do something like fix anything, like try to fly up and fix one of the part of the balloon or something, and just being annoyed and making Donald is a good grumpy character, and that's what I want to be the dynamic with Goofy, who's just innocent and fun, and he's goofy, like literally goofy, but he's like the sweet innocent guy. And I think to have the two characters that are more different dynamics, like I could have gone, like I was thinking, I could go Mickey and Goofy, that's like a classic pairing or whatever, but they're too similar, and I don't think that would be as fun and get into as many like hijinks where they'd be at odds with each other along the journey, which I think makes it more fun to me, especially in a kids movie where they can learn to get along by the end, because you see them and their dynamic being so different in the beginning. And I disagree with Kingdom Hearts. Like, other than like any character shouting in the middle of like casting a spell in that, like I'm playing that right now, so yeah, that gets annoying. But it's the actual cut scenes. Donald's a really good character actually, and he plays a curmudgeon, which is for the most part, which is what he's going to be doing in this.
Yeah, I'll butt in here and say that I'm a fan of Donald and Goofy together in the movie. So if Johnny has other attacks, I wouldn't want to spend a ton of time on these.
Yeah,
two.
I'll move past that and get to Johnny's. With Johnny, Monty Python, like I love the old movies, but they haven't done anything since 1983, and I don't know if that, like as far as together in an actual movie, and I don't know if for a reunion movie that I would want it to be a parody of Around the World in 80 Days, which is kind of a forgotten movie. Like you said, they tried to remake it in 2004. It was okay at best. And to bring these classic guys back, I'd want them to comment on something like they did in the old ones. Like King Arthur was a classic tale that everyone knows that you could parody and have fun with. Life of Brian and stuff, and like things where you're parodying religion and stuff. And I don't really like that's kind of the fun. They poke fun at things in a fun, silly way, but they do it in context to something that is either relevant or something that people will care about.
No, not really. What they do is they just think of this would be funny and we're going to do it. And the main thing is the characters they have. Yeah, this one isn't like Life of Brian, which is probably the only one that has like more of a narrative tale. But yeah, they just use the tale of King Arthur to kind of do funny things around that tale and play funny characters and have other people on it be funny. That's what they're famous for. That's what their skits are. Their spam episode and skit is not commentary on anything. It's just a fun skit about spam. Like, that's what I thought. This was a good device for it because it gives the opportunity to have skits with what they like to do with classic characters and have people play Shakespeare and Princess Diana and Bram Stoker, and they have like Dracula and stuff in it. You could have all of the characters in the world you want because of this premise. Your movie doesn't make sense to be anything like, you're going to name your movie Around the World in 80 Days starring Mickey Mouse, but then it's not Mickey Mouse, it's Goofy and Donald. And the only people that know what the fuck Around the World in 80 Days is are people who like Monty Python. It's an old 1956 movie that won Best Picture about Englishmen. Like, you know, people, like, I've seen it and it's entertaining in a way, you know, but Monty Python, that seems like something they would be a fan of and want to do. It makes no sense at all.
The reason it does, because any movie for kids where you can show different parts of the world, even if it's shown through the eyes of a Mickey Mouse thing, is good. And I think the tale itself just lends to a fun adventure. Kids like fun adventures. They don't need to know the old one. That's kind of why I was thinking this was a good pairing.
Yeah, but how many kids nowadays? How popular is Mickey Mouse? Like,
it's coming back on Disney Plus.
I understand having Chip and Dale and DuckTales and all these things that are coming back. If you centered around them and then made these classic characters that no one gives a shit about as side characters, okay, I get it. But no one cares. Like,
that's
just not. It's been 5 minutes,
but no one cares about these things. I don't.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's just not right.
I don't know the audience of these.
Knowing people with actually have kids, just saying that, like, a lot of they are watching a lot of, like, they're putting on Disney Plus a lot of Goofy, Donald, Mickey. They're trying to bring these classic characters back, and this would be a good way for them to continue that.
I don't know. I don't think anyone really modernly is like, you know what, I'm going to show my kids Mickey Mouse. Like, who grew up with Mickey Mouse at this point? We didn't. Me and you didn't watch Mickey Mouse when we were kids. Like,
I did.
I'm going to show my kids things that I grew up with. The only reason anyone nowadays even cares about Mickey Mouse is Kingdom Hearts, and your movie's not a Kingdom Hearts movie.
Well, so I know it's been 5 minutes, but so Goofy has been more of the popular character than Mickey. Mickey in almost everything, just like Kingdom Hearts, has been like, he's the king in charge of everything, but he's not a main character. And they're still trying to do that because they don't want to ruin his legacy. But Goofy has been pushed, and he has become beloved, especially by people who grew up watching the Goofy movie, who now have kids and will like that character and want to watch it with them and show it to them. So I think that makes it a more fun lead than picking like a Mickey or making it Kingdom Hearts, which to do that in Around the World in 80 Days doesn't make sense. And yours, it sounds too much like here's a skit and stuff, which could be funny,
like
but
Monty Python.
I don't know how well that translates to 2021, even with
does.
Like for an audience. Like you're going for very different audiences, and I think that there's a better device that could bring back Monty Python personally than to put him in a mediocre movie that we're remaking.
Tristan, do you have your decision, or do you need to hear more?
I think I've got my decision.
But
good argument to start out with, though.
Yeah, we have some live comments if you want to hear those first. Or
yeah, let's see those comments.
All right. Well, we can't put them on screen because, you know, technology's dumb, but... So, Dune Slug says he hates Rule 4, which is the rule of Mickey Mouse. Spinner58 just said that chicanery equals hijinks, or that's what that means.
Charcuterie.
That too. Then Dune Slug also says they're looking forward to the Brokeback Mountain pitches, and then just said, "Oh baby."
All right.
Just wait.
Dune Slug also refers to the fact that I'm anti Monty Python. He literally said yesterday that Life of Brian is a shit movie. Welcome Joe the Tasteless Boar. Never said it's a shit movie. Said I watched the first 20 minutes of it and was like, I can understand why people like this, but it's not for me. And then Paul220, welcome back Paul, says I thought Bobby would take that until Johnny said Monty Python. I would watch that. And then Dune Slug said, oh thank God Joe isn't the final say. And then Spinner58 says, I grew up with the reruns of original Mickey Mouse Club with Mickey Mouse.
Old.
She is
That
old.
was my point.
And then Dune Slug says, I like how Tristan always has a different setting in the background. But yeah, so
that is true.
You gotta change it up.
as far as what I think, even though my opinion doesn't matter, is that no one really won me over. No pitch either way kind of made me be like, oh, I definitely would be interested in that, or oh, I think that would be popular. But the fact that I feel like, as far as I go, that Bobby had such a leg up with the fact that I'm not a big Monty Python fan, and I did grow up more with a Goofy movie and a lot of the more Mickey Mouse cartoons. But as the pitches went on, I was slightly even, maybe even leaning more towards the fact that Johnny's movie interested in me more. I would personally vote for Johnny just because I felt like there were better characters to pick than just like Goofy and Donald. Like as a Launchpad McQuack fan, I would have been down for a Launchpad McQuack Gizmo Duck around the world in 80 days. But then again, I'm not picking, so my opinion does not matter.
It's hard for me because I think both of these pitches are pretty much like the best way you could do a movie. Like I think Bobby's pitch is a great like return to form for Disney. It feels like something that they definitely would launch on Disney Plus to start off. So maybe they pilot a series or something like that to just be like, here's Goofy and Donald going on adventures through various different like Disney versions of places in the world, and I think that sounds very watchable and very entertaining. And but Johnny's just sounded a lot more like something I'd be going out to see. I'm sure I would see both of you guys, but if I heard that there was going to be a return for Monty Python, they were going to bring back Terry Gilliam and they were going to give them this classic premise of around the world in 80 days, I think that's something that Monty Python as a concept can really run with and really get the most out of. So they both sound like really great versions of the movies that they're trying to make, but if I'm sitting there and I'm going to stream one or the other, I'm picking Johnny's, so I'll go with Johnny's on this, but a narrow win.
That was big because I was like, fuck this Mickey Mouse rule. How can you win with it? And Bobby almost did. So I give you credit for
that's
that.
why I wanted to start with.
You did a good job fighting that one.
All right.
That's
A
a
lot
tough rule.
closer
I
than I
really
thought it
want
was
to
gonna
see
be.
how you. I want to see how you do that because as I was fighting, I'm like, it's really hard to fight Mickey Mouse against Monty Python.
Well,
Who's amazing.
that's what. So my thing with it was, I figured you would go Mickey Mouse with that movie. So I was like, if I go, mouse to mouse with you, you're gonna win. So I went a different direction, and I just made a movie that I wanted to see, and hoped that Joe wasn't my main judge.
Yeah.
But he picked me anyway, so I was happy.
Yeah.
All right, Bobby, where are we going next? And who's going first?
Let's see. All right, let's go with Bohemian Rhapsody.
All right.
And I'll go first.
All right, that is my pick, so I am judging this round. Bohemian Rhapsody.
Thanks, Joe.
Bohemian Rhapsody came out in 2018. It got a 61% on Rotten Tomatoes, so somehow that movie won more Oscars than any other movie that year. Freddie Mercury, the lead singer of Queen, defies stereotypes and convention to become one of history's most beloved entertainers. The band's revolutionary sound and popular songs lead to Queen's meteoric rise in the 1970s. After leaving the group to pursue a solo career, Mercury reunites with Queen for the benefit concert Live Aid, resulting in one of the greatest performances in rock and roll history. So, and that is...
All right, so Bohemian Rhapsody, when I first saw the movie, I basically just liked the music scenes in it, and the more I watched or thought about it, they didn't even tell the right story for Freddie Mercury, and you can't really tell that story, I think, very well in a 2-hour movie. So my rule is I'm going to make this into a miniseries. As for my showrunner / director, I'm going with someone who's worked in film and in TV before, and that is Jean-Marc Vallée, who directed Dallas Buyers Club. So he's worked with the AIDS subject before, and he's also directed Sharp Objects, the miniseries on HBO, as well as Big Little Lies, which is a very popular show. And my movie's gonna be my show is gonna be pretty stylistic as far as because I'm gonna have flash forwards and flashbacks, and in order to tell easily what is what, most of the characters have an older and younger kind of actor, and so for my lead, I am going with someone who should have actually been the role in the first place, and that was Sacha Baron Cohen, and he was originally cast and is very invested in the character and wants to put it on screen, but he wanted to show the darker sides, and the family didn't really want to do that, or at least the band. As far as my older Brian May, I have Martin Freeman. My younger Brian May, I have Jamie Bell. Older Roger Taylor, I have Michael Sheen. My younger, I have Aaron Taylor Johnson. My older John Deacon, I have Damian Lewis, who's from Band of Brothers, mostly a TV British actor. Younger John Deacon, I have Jack Farthing, who's from Poldark. My Mary Austin younger is going to be Freya Maver from Skins and a lot of other British miniseries. And the older one is going to be Joan Froggatt from Downton Abbey. So a lot of people that have worked in TV and film in the past, and especially in British shows. So my story in present time is going to show, or that at like the most flash forward time is going to show Freddie as he's sick, dealing with AIDS, and flashing back to moments in Queen's career. The first scene in episode 1 is a part that is told in books about this from the band, which is when Freddie finally tells his bandmates that he has AIDS. And then it flashes back to when they first met. So you kind of see the dynamic and how that changed through time. So like I said, is a stylistic choice because it's him flashing back. He pictures himself as he is now, but a little healthier. So he gets to play the role in both time periods, kind of like how they did the flashback in like The Five Bloods, where they kept everyone at the same age. But that's just gonna be him because he's kind of picturing it, and everyone else is younger, so that you get when the flashbacks are happening. So like for example, he'll close his eyes and wake up, and it'll morph into one, or it'll open a door from one scene into a flashback scene. The older timeline shows the true story of Queen, with the timing actually lining up with how it actually happened, instead of in the movie where it kind of leads up to this big Live Aid like cinematic event. It'll go through their timeline and their hits, how they met and all that stuff, but it's also instead of just showing a normal boring like music biopic where it's just the rise, you also get the forward and him struggling away from the band. He was being helped by Mary Austin to get through, living with AIDS and all that, and so you get to see his struggle personally. But then with the band, they always described him as one of the funniest people they knew, and he didn't really show that to the public. And so I think Sacha Baron Cohen can show the comedic side that he is with the band. And they said he was always in high spirits, even when he was really sick. He would come in and just say, keep recording, guys. I just want to sing until my body doesn't let me anymore. So I want to show the dynamic of him struggling on his own, but then with the band, he's himself. He's upbeat, funny, and you finally get to the build up when the stories kind of collide. And by the way, just a couple little things they're going to show. They're going to actually show him recording with David Bowie, played by Tilda Swinton, recording for Under Pressure. A little thing about that. I've actually liked that idea for a while, but Johnny has said he likes that. And it does not hold back on like the sex and drugs and all that aspect. You get into the deep dark stuff, kind of like, Dallas Buyers Club goes into that. Sharp Objects is very dark and goes into that. But you also have the triumphs of Queen, and you still get their music throughout. So it's not just dark, depressing. It shows the inspiration and talent and genius that he is, as well as the dark side that he has. So the final scene is as he dies, he starts to picture himself on stage performing Bohemian Rhapsody, and it slowly fades as his mind does. The series ends with Freddie's death, but shows the inspiration he caused.
All right, Johnny, what did you do for this movie?
So Bobby and I actually went a similar direction. I didn't do a mini series because I don't think you need to do it, too long. But I think you can tell a story of him older and him younger in his prime, in a way that the movie never really showed. That came out a couple years ago. So what I'm doing is I'm using the 78th Golden Globe Award nominees for mine. So my director is someone who has done a ton of different genres in his career and has made biopics that are at least really popular for most people, and that's David Fincher. He also has a good style, I think, for this. He's directed music documentaries and stuff as well, so he can capture music really well. And I thought he was a good choice for this. So then my young Freddie Mercury, because I'll explain, Bobby and I did something similar with this. My younger Freddie Mercury is going to be played by Riz Ahmed, who was nominated for Sound of Metal. I think he looks like him. He's a great actor. I thought Sound of Metal was excruciatingly bad, boring-wise, but he is phenomenal in it. He's so good. So he was the only reason that really kept me going. I would have just turned the movie off if I didn't love him in it. And then my older Freddie Mercury is Sacha Baron Cohen. Because I agree. I think he would also play a good Freddie Mercury, but only the older one, because he's older now than Freddie was when he died. And my young Mary Austin is going to be played by Carey Mulligan, who was nominated, which obviously Sacha Baron Cohen was nominated for The Trial of the Chicago 7. Carey Mulligan was nominated for Promising Young Woman. My older Mary Austin is going to be played by Kate Hudson. I forget what she was nominated for, but she was nominated for something. And then Brian May, I only have him in the younger aspect of it, is going to be played by Austin Butler, who was in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and can play the guitar and is a musician. He's going to be Elvis in the biopic whenever that comes out. So I think just having someone who at least, if they play music over it, can at least look like they know what they're doing on the guitar, I think is important. And then my Jim Hutton, who was basically Freddie's lover for most of his life, he's only going to be in the older aspect of it. And that's going to be played by Mark Ruffalo, who was nominated for his, now I'm blanking on the name, but I just recently watched it, the TV show. That was really good, the short series. I had everything written down, and then I didn't, and I'm going to find it. Okay, no, people can look it up. All right, so my film is this. It's cut between two stories. The story of the younger Freddie is the recording of the album A Night at the Opera, so it takes place in 1975. And my other story with Sacha Baron Cohen is Jim Hutton taking care of a very sick Freddie Mercury in 1990, basically right before he dies of AIDS. And then, so I think when showcasing Freddie's life story, you need to show the highs and lows. He was the very charismatic person in his younger days and stuff, and then he had a really, really rough life towards the end, and I think you can portray that, and I think Sacha Baron Cohen is perfect for the older one. Like Bobby said, originally he was cast, but he wanted to make it a darker version, so I'm allowing him to do that with mine. So Riz Ahmed plays a younger Freddie at his most creative, at his peak as an artist, recording Queen's biggest hit and one of their biggest albums. So that's going to be them bringing in all these different instruments, and at first it's going to start with them leaving their record company to go join the new one because it's the most expensive record. At the time, it was the most expensive record ever produced. So I kind of want to tell that story. I think that is peak Queen, and I think that was the only, other than the musical part, like the Live Aid scene, the only fun part of Bohemian Rhapsody was them actually working the album, even though it wasn't actually how any of it was done. So I kind of want to just get into the creation of the Night at the Opera, writing Bohemian Rhapsody, going in and performing that, and everyone thinking they're kind of crazy, and then that coming out. And then Sacha Baron Cohen plays Freddie at his weakest. He's dying of AIDS, but he is surrounded by people that love him. The only other people that are going to be in it, Kate Hudson as Mary Austin, because she was with him basically till the end, just as his friend. She's going to be in there. And then Mark Ruffalo as Jim Hutton, who was his lover, is going to be the one. Primarily, it's going to be him taking care of a sick Freddie. And it's going to end with them, the album gets done in the previous one, and then it cuts to the future, and it's Freddie basically falling asleep. You don't know if he's falling asleep or passing away, right next to Jim Hutton listening to the radio, and Bohemian Rhapsody comes on. So that'll be like, and then that plays over the credits, that song. So mine, I think, is going to be toned similar. Like, instead of like Dallas Buyers Club, which was very, very dark and maybe a little too dark for like a Queen story, mine's going to be more the tone similar to like a Philadelphia. Like, you're still going to have them kind of joke around with Jim Hutton, and Mark Ruffalo can be good at that. And Sacha Baron Cohen can do that well. While he can play a sick Freddie, he's still going to be, trying to, crack jokes, and then he, coughs and is sick and needs to lay down and stuff. But I think this is the story that I'd want to tell if I was telling like Freddie's life, like basically his peak, his highest point in his life, and his lowest point in his life, and you kind of get that with it. I think some of the other stuff, Bohemian Rhapsody, you already have, and it only came out 2 years ago. I don't need a lot of that same story because I just saw it. Even though it was completely inaccurate, I at least saw aspects of it. It was basically, they showed what happened, but it was just out of order. So instead of just doing all of the classic like Freddie Mercury, I don't need his life story. I just want like moments that really capture who Freddie was. So that's more of what my movie focuses on.
All
right. And that is my pitch.
All right. Tristan, do you got any questions for them?
Yeah, I do have a couple of questions. I'm going to start with Johnny. I know you hate Social Network, and Mank was pretty terrible, so why did you decide to go with Fincher, knowing your taste and what you like in movies?
I think Social Network is a good movie, and I always shit on it because everyone acts like it was this incredible film. And I don't think it is, because Jesse Eisenberg annoys me, but putting away my bias, it's a well-written, well-directed movie with good performances, but I just personally hate Mark Zuckerberg, and anything you throw at me that's Facebook, I'm not going to care about. So that's the reason I hate The Social Network, even though I kind of play that up as like something I hate. And I haven't seen Mank, but I feel like Mank is more of a David Fincher, just it was his own passion project. It wasn't something that anyone else wanted him to do. he was just like, this is my one-off. I'm going to do it. I think when he does even Curious Case of Benjamin Button, that's a movie you can only watch once. You only really need to, but it's a good film, and it's a really captures human emotions. So that's kind of why I went with him. And I think he also, I forget what band, but he has done multiple documentaries of musicians before and has captured their concerts. So I think he's also someone that can capture them recording in the studio really well. So that's why I went with Fincher.
All right, and I have one question for Bobby too. You mentioned you're pretty much going through a lot of the greatest hits of Queen, and you said you want to do it differently than traditional biopics. But I want to know how you're going to avoid just feeling like, oh, we're running through all the big moments of this career. How do you avoid being a sort of cliche traditional greatest hits biopic?
Because a lot of the times when those greatest hits biopics happen, it's the condensed into 2-hour movie. So you have to show the rise, the fall, the rise back to fame, and happy ending or whatever type of thing. When you have a series where you can draw it out and actually get in a little bit more in depth with his life and the challenges that he faced, where you can focus, an episode more on the addiction that he had, addictions and stuff like that, in one aspect, but then you show him later on and he's, over that, but he's happy, but he's sick because of the mistakes he did in the past. You kind of show what he did when he was younger and how that impacted him when he was older, and how he relates back to it, because that's why I wanted Sacha Baron Cohen to be the actor in both of them, because you get to see the dynamic more of how he was and how different he was at different times in his life, but still, instead of Johnny being a very different actor where it's very differentiated and you can tell it's oh, he just emotionally is different at this time, instead of, oh, he's just younger here and looks different and now he's older. So I wanted to be able to show that. So I think just stretching it out over a series, it's not just going to be here's this event. You can actually get into the personal character struggles throughout his life, instead of just the big moments and oh, they recorded this big album.
All right, I like that. I have no more questions. I don't know if you got some, Joe.
Yeah, Tristan, you basically had the exact same questions I have, so I don't really have any questions, and these pitches have gone. They were both pretty long pitches, so I say we just get to it. It's 43 minutes and 20 seconds now, so at 48:20 I'll stop it. But yeah, whoever wants to start, you guys can fight it out.
All right, you started last time, so I'll go. But I just want to point, because you were pointing out at my director, but David Fincher is not necessarily even though he's done some music documentaries and stuff, he's not known for his upbeat tone and big type of things that you kind of described in yours as far as the tone of the movie. And I would rather him see his best movies are his dark, gritty, his Sevens, his Gone Girls, my favorite movies of him, the Zodiacs, the movies where he does just straight up do a biopic, like Social Network. Like you said, a lot of people really like that, but he tries to keep that very dark too, as well. And then the humor is just because of the writing involved in that one. And I just don't think the tone of yours fits a Fincher movie. And if it did, I think it would feel out of place. And it's not what I would rather see him do. And I did kind of already describe, I don't love the idea of 2 different actors playing Freddy in this. I would rather, because Sacha Baron Cohen. No,
I'm sorry, it's off. It would take me out of that show so badly if Sacha Baron Cohen was old Freddy and young Freddy. Have you ever seen Love and Mercy? Because in that movie, it's a story of...
I have. We saw it together, actually.
Brian Wilson. Yeah, and that movie's phenomenal. But if you just stuck John Cusack instead of Paul Dano, I'd be like, what the fuck am I watching?
His age is not super different. It's actually, you could age Sacha Baron Cohen down if you wanted, but I chose to keep him as he was at that time as far as old, because I thought it would be stylistically a lot more interesting, especially when everyone else changes around him, because it's showing his reflection of looking back instead of just a straight up story. So it's going to be a little bit more visually interesting, because you're going to have the character walk into scenes that go into flashbacks, and the editing and stuff will be a flashy way that will at least keep you entertained and going between the past and the present. And I want Sacha Baron Cohen to be the one link between the 2 time periods. And like I said, he's going to be a lot more sick in